The Russia investigation, if you can remember that far back, was created to expose collusion between American politicians and operatives from foreign governments. Instead, so far, the investigation has simply exposed itself as corrupt and mismanaged. Newly released text messages from FBI agent Peter Strzok suggest high-level FBI operatives were not on the level about the investigation from the very beginning. Fox chief intelligence correspondent Catherine Herridge joins us now with details. Catherine.
Well, thank you, Tucker. The text messages are a window into the FBI's highly charged internal politics under then-Director James Comey and suggest at least one senior investigator was skeptical the Russia probe would uncover wrongdoing. 2 days after Special Counsel Robert Mueller took over the probe in May, now demoted FBI agent Peter Strzok and now reassigned FBI lawyer Lisa Page discussed the merits of joining Mueller's team. Strzok tells Page, "You and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern there's no big there. In another more cryptic text, Strzok writes, "I personally have a sense of unfinished business. Unleashed it with MYE, that stands for mid-year exam, the FBI's code name for the Clinton email case. And now I need to fix it and finish it." Another Republican who read the text said the FBI officials talk about a secret society within days of President Trump's victory.
There was a society of at least two people, to include Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, that had a desire to keep Donald Trump from becoming president, and then an expressed intent to work against him after he was elected president.
The FBI blames the technical problem for a 5-month gap in the Strzok-Page text and would not comment to Fox News on whether the Bureau has taken physical custody of their phones for a forensic review that could recover those texts. Tucker.
Catherine Herridge, thanks for always being on this. Joe DeGenova is a former U.S. attorney in D.C., and he joins us tonight. Joe, thanks a lot for coming on.
My pleasure.
So on Special Report a little over an hour ago, Ron Johnson, the head of Senator, who's head of the Homeland Security Committee, suggested that the secret society referenced in these texts may have been an actual thing, and it may have met off-site, away from the FBI secretly. We don't know more than that. What does this suggest to you?
It suggests, as we've said from the beginning, that there was a brazen plot to illegally exonerate Hillary Clinton, and if she didn't win the election, to then frame Donald Trump with a falsely created crime. Everything that we have seen from these texts and from all the facts developing shows that the FBI and senior DOJ officials conspired to violate the law and to deny Donald Trump his civil rights.
What would be the motive for that?
The motive would be that they didn't like Donald Trump, they didn't think he was fit to be president, and they were going to do everything within their power to exonerate Hillary Clinton, and if she lost, to frame Donald Trump with a false crime because they didn't think he should be president.
What do you make of the claim that 5 months of text messages between Strzok and Lisa Page have somehow disappeared, as Lois Lerner's emails did, as Hillary Clinton's emails did?
Well, as an old United States attorney who has watched obstruction of justices over the years, that explanation from the Bureau is ludicrous. Those texts were either purposely destroyed, period. They were purposely destroyed. Moreover, they exist somewhere. I can assure you the NSA has them. Other companies have them. Verizon has them, AT&T. And if the Bureau can't figure out how to get them, they're in worse shape than I thought they were.
So you don't buy it at all?
No, absolutely not. Those texts exist, and if they don't exist, they were destroyed.
So you suggest this is obstruction of justice. How do we proceed if the country's chief law enforcement agency is itself guilty of that?
Well, the Attorney General needs to appoint a special counsel, and if he doesn't want to do that, he needs to make sure that the criminal division of the Justice Department impanels a grand jury immediately and starts putting in that grand jury under oath Comey, Strzok, Page, Baker, McCabe, everybody is, and senior Justice Department officials, Sally Yates, Bruce Orr, and others, John Carlin, the head of the National Security Division, all of these people need to be in front of a federal grand jury. We have long since passed the time when we need to have just congressional investigations for this. Make no mistake about it. A group of FBI and DOJ people were trying to frame Donald Trump of a falsely created crime.
Is there any possibility the Justice Department has already impaneled that investigation?
Oh, I certainly hope so, because we're long past the time when that should have been done. I hope they have. If they haven't, I can't imagine that they're not about to do so shortly.
Why is it so hard for the FBI to respond to legitimate and lawful requests for information from the Congress, which provides oversight?
It shouldn't be. I don't understand it. I must say Christopher Wray's performance has been extremely unimpressive with regard to how to lead an agency at a time of crisis, how to respond publicly, how to respond to Congress, how to carry out your duties. It has been an abysmal performance by Director Wray.
Strzok and Page apparently still working at the FBI headquarters here in Washington. Does that strike you as odd?
Strikes me as very odd. I cannot conceive of circumstances under which agents in these conditions, with the kind of text messages that they exchange, knowing what we know now about the criminal activity involving the compromising of National Security Agency intercepts of 702 data involving private American citizens. I can't imagine how they can still be on the premises.
Would they be cleared to see classified information?
I certainly cannot imagine how they would still be cleared to see classified.
But they have access to former colleagues, of course, or their present colleagues in the building.
Yes, members of the secret society no doubt continue to still talk to one another.
What can be, I mean, are there civil service rules? I mean, how could that be at this point?
I'm afraid only Christopher Wray knows why they are being allowed to stay in that building.
And last question, since you have been here for a long time and worked in this world for a long time, are we right to have real questions about the integrity of our justice system watching this?
Regrettably, we are at a point now where the FBI has lost almost all of its credibility and, regrettably, its integrity as a result of the conduct of James Comey, who remains America's most dirty cop.
Terrifying. Joe DeGenova, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Richard Goodstein advised Hillary Clinton during both of her presidential campaigns. He joins us on the set now. Thanks a lot, Richard. Thanks for coming on. So the way it typically unfolds between you and me is I say, can you believe this happened? And you say, Hillary Clinton did nothing wrong. Right-wing crazies making up stories again. So let's try something new. We're going to do what we call the revulsion test. I'm going to read you a series of statements which are true, and you tell me if they bother you. How's that? Here we go.
Let's try it.
Does it bother you the Justice Department decided not to charge Hillary Clinton in the email case before completing the investigation into her or interviewing her personally? Does that bother you?
What doesn't bother me is the fact that every good lawyer, every good prosecutor, every good judge, before the decision is handed down, pretty much kind of decides what the facts of the case and the law would be. And basically, because they have a deadline, they're not going to write it the morning of, right? So they want to write a scholarly document that's well received. So of course, they know what the evidence is going to be. They knew what Hillary was going to say. This was no surprise. This was the suggestion that somehow or other, that what she was going to tell them was going to be different when they had all the evidence in.
Well, this is so striking. I mean, so they knew, as you said, they knew what the evidence was going to be before they gathered it all, and they knew what she was going to say.
Well,
they hadn't so I guess the question arises, like, why have an investigation at all? Why interview anybody?
I didn't say
because we know what we know. So why don't we just charge people we believe are guilty and exonerate those we think are innocent?
So they had access to tens of thousands of emails, right? And they had testimony from plenty of people. And as is the case, you end up having kind of the big fish last, right? And you pretty much know by that point what that person is going to say because you have all the documentary evidence to support it. So it's not the case that
how would you know what she was going to say? I mean, unless you're clairvoyant. I mean, this is a living person. You ask specific questions. You don't know what the person's going to say. I interview people for a living. I don't know what they're going to say.
Of course, right. And all I'm saying is they had the documentary evidence. She had it. She prepared herself for it. Look, can I just say one thing? Donald Trump said he wants the Hillary Clinton test, right? So when he's questioned, he wants to have it, whatever he said. I agree. The Hillary test should be 11 and a half hours under cameras, under the heat, just like she had for Benghazi. That's what he should
subject himself to. For Benghazi, it's a different investigation.
Well,
I just, look,
11 and a half hours.
I'm just, look,
you know,
I'm not,
hold
on, I'm not arguing that Hillary should go to jail. I'm arguing about the integrity. I'm concerned about the integrity of our justice system. And if we're deciding that people are innocent or guilty before completing the investigation into them or even interviewing them, I have concerns, don't you?
Look,
no, not in this case.
The suggestion that the FBI was somehow in her hip pocket is so twisted that most people would say, no, Comey broke the rules on July 5th. Comey broke the rules by releasing the letter, and he broke the rules by not telling the public what he was in on about Trump's.
So Comey's bad. You're not going to hear me
Russians.
defend him. I'm just talking about the process here. So, you're not bothered by that. Here's a second question. Are you bothered by this? This comes from an FBI agent who was investigating Donald Trump, and I'm quoting, I want to believe Trump can't get elected but I can't take that risk.
Right.
Does it bother you that Peter Strzok, the FBI agent official who wrote that, was investigating Trump at the time?
You know, he said awfully bad things about Bernie Sanders and Chelsea Clinton. Look, does it bother me that somebody working in the FBI
what do you think that
has
means?
Political views? Again, he had said equally unkind things about people
but
with
it's
the
not,
last name of
hold
Clinton.
on, no, let's just be totally clear. It's not about his political views, which he's entitled to. And like most federal employees, he's liberal. I get it. I live here. He is involved at the highest level of the investigation.
No, he's not. Robert Mueller, who's a lifelong Republican, is the highest level of the investigation. Okay. Peter Strzok was in every interview with somebody else from the FBI.
Okay, but you're making my point. He's not running it. I didn't say he was.
Right.
But at the level below the guy running it, which is Mueller, you have Peter Strzok. And he is saying, and I'm quoting, I want to believe he can't get elected, but I can't take that risk. We don't know what that means. Here's what we do know. If that was written by someone investigating Hillary Clinton, I would join you in denouncing that as terrifying.
I guarantee you, if the facts were the Russians offered help, the Clinton campaign said, love it, the Russians proceeded to offer help, and that Hillary Clinton used that 100 times on the campaign trail, by now we would have impeachment proceedings, no question.
Okay, but
so if it was twisted,
right.
I agree.
Look, I want to believe he can't get elected, but I can't take that risk. This isn't a person in a position to influence the outcome with the full force of the federal government behind him, to influence the outcome of the Trump presidency.
Well, no.
Yes, he is. Of course, he is one of the officials running at this point.
The Trump presidency is going to rise or fall on the facts.
Okay.
That Robert Mueller comes
So it doesn't bother you that the guy said, I can't take the risk that Trump's going to get elected. Says the guy investigating Trump on behalf of the FBI. Doesn't bother you.
This guy sent 50,000 text messages in 5 months, 10,000 a month. How was he even getting work done?
Where are they? So this is my third question. So we've been told by the federal government that they've lost 5 months of text messages between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. Do you believe that? Does it bother you that they could have, quote, I'm not sure how you lose a text message, since my impression was they endure forever. Right. If you try and cheat the IRS, you'll find out they're there.
Agreed.
They lost them somehow, and we're supposed to nod in kind of bovine acceptance. So sure you did. Does that bother you at all?
I'm not nodding. No, I hope they find them.
No, but what do you make of the claim that they lost them?
Tucker, there's all these addled conspiracy theories as a distraction from what it is that we're finding out with each passing day, each passing plea of guilt. Okay. That's what this is about.
I think we can have multiple conversations simultaneously. And as I've said from day one, when they find the text from Vladimir Putin to Donald Trump saying, I pledge to get you elected, I will be the first to denounce Trump. It may not be that,
but it may be a conversation between Manafort and Trump.
At the same time, you would hate to think that a byproduct of this investigation is the corruption of our justice system. And I'm beginning to think, based on a lot of data points whose accuracy you have not contested, that we have a real problem with the way we investigate political crimes, both of Hillary and of Donald Trump.
In the run-up to the election, when Rudy Giuliani was talking about FBI agents in Brooklyn, these were not people who were friendly to Hillary Clinton. He was getting inside information that was information helpful to Donald Trump. So I agree there's a problem. But it's not a problem that cuts in Trump's favor.
So 1 out of 3 bothers you. That's pretty. You're a very tolerant man, Richard Goodstein. Thank you for being here.